Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about exploratory data analysis and resampling. So exploratory data analysis, or also known as EDA, is basically procedures that create summaries to describe the data. And it can be graphical or not graphical, just using statistics. Basically, it allows us to examine the data and identify and understand the relationships between variables, right? Which is helpful because it also allows us to debug any errors, right? So for example, any data entry errors or identify any sort of outliers. And it's helpful because it allows us to understand how the data should be manipulated. So that we can achieve the purpose of our study. So every time that we're dealing with analysis, the first thing we should do is identify the type of data, right? And I talk about this in much more detail in my Basics of Statistics class, so I'll link that down below. But essentially, the data can be categorical, right? So I'm going to write that here, categorical. If it can be divided into categories, further, it can be, if it can be ordered, then it's ordinal. If not, then it's nominal. Or the data can be numerical, right? So it can be discrete, interval, continuous, ratio, etc. Okay, so when we're conducting EDA, we have two different categories, right? So let me just do two different categories. So the first one is going to be univariate. And this basically is for describing one variable. So there's no sort of like relationships involved, between variables, because here we're only describing one, right? And this can be further broken down into non-graphical or graphical. And so, for example, of a graphical method for univariate is our stem and leaf plots, right? And this is going to just describe the distribution and displays the data that we have, thereby summarizing the data. So the other category we have is multivariate. And just like the name sounds, this is describing. So this is for more than one variable. And again, it can be broken down into non-graphical and graphical. Okay, so examples of graphical methods are, for example, bubble charts, right? What do bubble charts look like? They're just like bubbles and they represent, different groups. Or, we can have the grouped bar charts. So, like where we have multiple groups. And so basically for the non-graphical method, it would be techniques that show relationships using stats, right? So for instance, we can have central tendency. And this, is like mean, median, which is also sometimes seen as P50 or Q2, and mode. We can also show the relationship using like variability. And for this, we can have our range, max minus min. We can have a standard deviation. We can have IQR, interquartile range. That's Q3 minus Q1. Okay, so now we understand kind of what exploratory data analysis is. We know that it just summarizes the data, but how do we do this? How do we achieve this with big data sets? Well, we use programming languages. So two of the really popular ones are Python and R. And let me know if you want me to make like a more in-depth video on how exactly these tools are used for EDA. So what if you're asked to create, a sampling distribution? Right? Particularly a parametric model. So how do we know if we should create a normal distribution or t distribution? These are two types of parametric models. So I'll write that here. Normal distribution or t distribution. Well, for normal distributions, we need the population standard deviation, and we need a large sample. For t distribution, we need the sample size so the sample standard deviation to be, so I'll write that here, sample standard deviation to be similar to the normal distribution, or we need to have just like a large sample size. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is resampling. So why do we need to do resampling? Well, it's used to get more information about the fitness of our model, right? Essentially, we're performing repeated sampling, and we do this for consistency and confidence in our model. Okay, there's two different methods that I want to talk about. So the first method is called cross validation, and basically it's used for selecting the model. So for selecting the model. And it's also used for assessing the performance of the model. And this can be done, for example, by test errors, right? Because if the test errors are low, then we know that our model is not necessarily performing well. So the second method that I want to talk about is pretty popular. You've likely heard it, called bootstrapping, right? And this basically is used to provide us accuracy of a parameter. So what we do is we will resample the data with replacement. So when we take the data point out, we can put it back in, meaning we're able to resample. We can resample the same observation multiple times. Right? So this is a brief overview on EDA and resampling, and I hope this video was, really helpful for you. And yeah, let me know what you guys would like to see next. Thank you.